And good morning to my analysts. It's Ikemesit and Joseph.
Morning,
Good
Zibby.
morning,
Morning,
Zibby.
Lagos.
Morning, Lagos. Everybody, greet you.
Happy pre-election day. I have to say that. Not
Indeed.
except not unless you're in
Well,
Abuja or Edo State.
well, yeah, exactly. I was going to say that definitely not re-election for Joseph.
Okay. All
Mhm.
right. So we're going to start off with a story coming from Punch. Three persons have reportedly lost their lives and 13 others injured as members of the Oyo State chapters of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and PDP engaged each other yesterday in Ibadan. Now, an unspecified number of vehicles and motorcycles were also damaged. Electoral or pre-electoral violence.
Yeah, very much so. So some of the media reporting about this is a little all over the place, but the general consensus is that this particular incident occurred when APC and PDP supporters clashed in a particular area of Ibadan Southeast local government. Um, the scripts that we have right from the Punch said that the incident occurred when APC members holding a meeting were sort of provoked by PDP members who were in vehicles who were just passing by the meeting venue. But according to the Vanguard, that actually quotes the federal lawmaker who represents Ibadan Southeast Northeast Federal constituency in the Federal House of Representatives. That's Honorable Abbas Adigun, who actually told journalists that the PDP was campaigning in the area and they were targeted by the APC supporters. Apparently, the councillor, right, at the ward level who represents that local government area, who's a PP, a member of the killed in his home, according to media reports, in front of his wife and his kids. So at least he's one of the three, casualties. One of three people that were killed that at least we can account for, right? Like I said at the start of the show, pre-election day, we are seeing some pre-election violence as it were. We do think at as an organization that work for that the governorship elections are likelier to be more violent than what we saw during the presidential votes, just because there are a lot more competitive risks, right, governorship level in this cycle. 28 United States are picking their governors, what states lawmakers tomorrow. And Oyo is simply just, unfortunately, sort of what the template or what the mood heading into tomorrow's votes may look like, not just in that state, but in a few others across the country.
All right. Well, let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And you can also tweet at smooth981. But let's move on to the next story. And this one is coming from Business Day. The president has expressed the belief that the recently signed business facilitation law will enhance private sector growth and also contribute to the Nigerian economy. He said for any economy to grow and create jobs, there needs to be an equally vibrant and successful SME sector.
Yeah, the new act, the new law actually aims to promote ease of doing business, which in Nigeria hasn't been really what the government promises it should be. One thing is to sign into law acts that intend to help solve the situation, but the other thing is really following through. I mean, I remember when the Corporate Affairs Commission was digitalizing its operations. The promise they made to lawyers and a whole lot of people was that, it becomes very easy for you to, for example, register businesses and all that. But the practice is not exactly so. I mean, people are grinding under all kinds of bureaucracies, their system is slow, you can't load up documents and all this. These things have not changed. You can sign laws, but then if simple things like that cannot happen, then it is very sad that you can't create ease of doing business when the things that lead to ease of doing business don't work. So it's one thing to say the intentions are always good. Yeah, brilliant. We hope to achieve this. Yes, but in actual fact, what is the agencies of government that are implementing the aspects of the law that are relevant to easing business, the business environment, may not really be ready, or they may just be there to sabotage the process. And that's the major issue with Nigeria, and that's the problem. So the intentions are good. President says it, the law is written, but in actual fact, what's happening on ground? People who are interfacing with government agencies get frustrated, and the business, those who are coming in with investment get frustrated because the system is not transparent. The system is bogged down by bureaucracies. It is the attitude of the people, the government employees who are actually implementing the law that matters most. And until we see changes here, I don't think that we really will achieve the kind of ease of doing business we are thinking we should achieve. As has shown, I mean, this is not the first time we are attempting this. Yes, there's been some bit of changes, yeah, but really down, when it comes to the brass tacks, we see that there are gaps in our implementation.
All right, let's take a few messages. This one is from Dan. He says, I hope INEC has gotten its acts right. Nigerians would not like to see a repeat of what's happened in previous elections. Let the best candidates win. And another message from Idima Puza. He says, what is the essence of peace accords without penalties against the defaulters? Is it not a waste of time and just a mere jamboree? Because there is no peace. May God help Nigeria. Dami says, violence has always been an unfortunate age-old feature of Nigerian politics. The willingness of non-state actors to engage in brutal acts to gain and retain power litters our history. All right, let's go on to this article coming from Daily Trust. Now, human rights lawyer Femi Falana says the Nigerian Railway Corporation, NRC, should be held culpable for the train accident that happened last Thursday. 6 people are reportedly dead from that accident and so many more injured as a result. He says that both BRT operators and NRC were insured and therefore should provide compensation for the victims of the accident.
Yeah, and the short answer, right, to Femi Falana's response, right, is that he's absolutely correct. Families should be compensated. More to the point, there should be some form of criminal recriminations, right, against all of those that were involved, right? The state government at the time promised an investigation into this, right? Obviously it would make sense to know, why the bus driver of the BRT bus was, on the rail track at the time when the moving train was passing, because it was a running train, right? Especially when they approach this, this modal second, sort of goes past the rail line, right? You usually get a series of warnings, and typically the track would be closed, at least the road approach leading up to the tracks would be closed or restricted somewhat. And so it's quite curious, the BRT bus ended up on the track at the time when they were passing. So it'd be very good to know what happened, if it was just human failure, it was a combination of both, and from a criminal penalty as well as accountability, right, as a result of. So my learned senior, absolutely right and absolutely correct. a lot more needs to be done. This shouldn't be swept under the carpet. I think the last bit that I'll mention on this is that in most serious countries, incidents like this are taken seriously. Greece, for example, is this more than 2 weeks of protest because of a train accident, right, that occurred when two trains collided with each other, right, in the south of that country, and many Greeks felt the government has not been enough to actually demand and ensure that accountability goes who carried out. We might not get to that level of frustration here in Nigeria, but that doesn't mean that we also shouldn't ask questions and those questions.
Okay, I want to get some more details on the legal part of this, and I'm very happy that you both are legal professionals. Considering investigations are still ongoing, now if one party and perhaps BRT is found that perhaps the employee, the driver, made a wrong decision that led to this accident, will the other party, which is the NRC, also or still be liable to pay compensation if investigations show that the actions of the driver contributed or wholly caused the accident?
My take is that I think the question that will arise is whether the NRC's intervention in trying to prevent people crossing the road is adequate. Because the reports we've read is that somebody was standing there and was holding traffic and telling people don't cross. Maybe they were holding, I think they said they hold a plaque which still shows red and green. And so they showed this red to the line where the driver was coming from. But this driver was determined to beat the train. He thought he could ignore the warning and zoom across the rail quickly. So the point is, BRT, yeah, the driver was negligent, but is what the barriers provided by NRC adequate to deter movement? I think, and when I was growing up, and I mentioned this last time, when I was growing up, there were actually physical barriers. There were barriers that were put on the way, on the road, to whenever the trains come in. Somebody pushed that barrier and prevents anybody from crossing. So that situation wouldn't have arisen. It wouldn't have arisen if there was a physical barrier. And these things are not. It's not rocket science. You can actually build that barrier. These days, you press a button and it comes down and creates a barrier. So the planning of the railway tracks, I think they didn't think about doing those things, at least on major roads. Smaller streets, yeah, but major roads where traffic is high, I think that should be done. Those are the questions that will come out. Of course, each party will want to exonerate itself when it comes to matter. I would like to hear the opinion of Ikemesit on this one, but I think that there is some level of negligence on both sides, you know. But yeah, because the question I asked.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Yeah, so it really depends on where culpability and responsibility lies in the end, and that's why the investigation is super important. The investigation and its findings will be the basis of any sort of criminal inquiry or any form of any form of court prosecution, right? That will occur out of this. On the face of this, typically the rules of engagement require that road traffic differs to train traffic. And so all of those barriers, and they do exist in some places, Joseph, to be fair.
I know, yeah, across the world,
yes.
it's not a must, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but even here in Nigeria, they do exist in some cases. But if there is a situation where if there's a situation where one, the infrastructure could have been better, the investigation should, well, yeah, let's leave it as should. I was going to say will, but you never know in these situations in Nigeria, right? Yes, but the investigation should flag that. But if there's also a situation where there's a human factor and there's a human element that made sure that even in the presence of adequate infrastructure, disaster was inevitable, we should also focus on that. And whoever was responsible for making that happen, whether that was a defect of training or whether that was just a situation where a driver just personally decided that he was going to put himself and other people in harm's way, there should be consequences attached to that as well.
Okay, let's read a few messages. Kazim says, I tried registering a company. After almost trying 40 times, I gave up. I was waiting for someone to sue the government for loss of lives and injuries. How come there are no barricades on the road that the trains go through? Chibuzo says, I agree with Falana's opinion. Both parties are liable and should compensate. And we're not just talking about handing over cash. An investigation into determining systemic failures that allowed this to happen, such as how drivers are trained or selected, and guardrails to prevent buses or any items on the rail tracks while a train is moving. There was an accident in Greek a few weeks ago, and there have been protests asking the government to step down. When do we get to that point of responsibility? All right, we'll take a break and continue the conversation on the other side. This is Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Yeah, Zibby, Miriam was saying that there's that the quality of my connection does not appear to be up to scratch.
Yes, it's better now.
Okay,
it's better now.
It's better now that I've turned off the video. Yeah. Okay,
yes,
great.
yes. I could barely hear you the first and second time. It was like a drawl, but it's much better now. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Okay.
You know, Zibby, I don't know how I get to be calling you Ziggy. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm a fan of Ziggy Valley. I don't know. But...
yeah, it might be that. It might be that. It might
Just
be that.
Anyone who mispronounces my name has to pay a fine to me.
All right. I'll call my lawyer. Ikemesit, please get ready.
No problem.
Claims are coming.
Okay, I need to get Mr. C to stand for me then. All right, we're going on. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. It's Zibby here, and my analysts this morning, Ikemesit and Joseph, we're looking at these stories making the headlines. As always, we love to read your messages. Let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. You can also catch the live stream on YouTube. Just search for Smooth 981 on YouTube. And let's go on to this story that's coming from Vanguard. Now, it's reported that a school bus conveying children aged 1 to 5 yesterday somersaulted in Lagos, injuring some of the occupants of that vehicle. Okay, so this is, I'm just going to let you go onto it, really.
I mean, it's so saddening that this kind of thing happened. But it just tells you the level of, I don't know, care that should go into these things. I mean, last time it was a schoolgirl electrocuted on a sports ground in a school. This time around, these are little children, toddlers who are going to school in the morning. The bus hits objects by the roadside and somersaults. It means there is some level of either mechanical or human failure. That's simply from reading the report alone, it tells you that it's mechanical or human failure, because a vehicle that is in good order and is operated properly according to the manufacturer's instruction will not veer off the road, hit the median, hit pole and all that, and somersault and put the lives of these children in danger. So sometimes schools cut corners in maintenance of vehicles, or they don't really do proper background check on the people they employ as drivers. Some of them are not even well paid. That's notorious. I mean, these people are not well paid. And not to talk about training, safety training and all those kind of things that are necessary when people are operating on the road and doing those kind of that have serious safety implications. So it's really bothersome. It's not enough for the Ministry of Education to say, oh, we come and inspect your compound, we look at all those things. They are not paying attention to these other aspects, which is the duty of care that schools should have towards the pupils that are handed over to them. So what will the school authorities say to the parents of these children? That they are sorry or what? And what makes it worse is that I think what actually encourages all this is that people don't get sued in Nigeria. I'm not saying it because I'm a lawyer, I want business or access. No, in other parts of the world, this kind of thing happens, the school will be sued blind by parents, or each parent or group of parents come together and sue the school and claim really serious damages for negligence. But in Nigeria, we are so philosophical. Somebody is killed, we go and plead and say, well, nothing, even if we take them to court, it will not bring the person back now. It's happened a number of times. I mean, for a graduate, young graduate, 1 million naira was given to the family. Is that the value of a graduate or an engineer knocked down by a vehicle or a convoy in the convoy of a senator in Rivers State? I mean, these kind of things happen all the time. And until we change our orientation, we will continue to say this. We are just kind of deadened to danger, to I don't know, safety. We push safety down the rank of our concerns. And it shouldn't be, particularly for organizations, for schools, those that manage people and children in particular. We should be much more serious, and they should hold them accountable. I think the Ministry of Education is supposed to be interested in this kind of stories.
I've got a message, and this is from Ngozi. Ngozi says, people don't sue because of the weak judicial system. Olabode says, the barriers are made of iron on roads too. Those things are used. Okay, the manholes, and they are also missing due to theft and increased chances of accidents. The police should be dragged into this to explain why iron-made public properties are stolen without any arrests made. The issue of the manhole covers all across the city, it's a problem where people willfully go and get these things out, putting other people in harm's way. It's really quite sad, really. Let's go on to a few more messages. Auntie Tokes says, I'm curious to know whether the bus driver was driving under the influence or not. Passengers warned him, but he was stubborn to their warnings. Barriers must be built on the intersection of roads and rail lines, and government must ban selling of alcohol, especially around motor parks. JP says NRC isn't ready. They can't sell tickets online in Lagos. Barriers, I can bet they haven't thought of it. Sad. And this message from Yinka says, I'm sorry, but I disagree. Barrier or no barrier, should anyone in their right mind even think of beating a moving train? It's a train crossing, for heaven's sake. And yes, there's meant to be a barrier, but was the bus driver not waved down to stop? It's just saying because there is no barrier on the road when the traffic light was red, yet he refused to stop. The driver must be charged with manslaughter. Okay, let's move on to the next story. And this one is from Punch. The NPC, which is the National Population Commission, has said that the 2023 planned census is not ethnic or politically motivated. And they had a workshop in, I believe this was in Ogun State, and this workshop was aimed at training journalists in effective and efficient reporting of the population census.
Okay, so not to preempt the work of the National Population Commission, I don't know if training journalists should be high on its priority. I know that a lot of work is currently being fed into planning for the census. The census fund part was supposed to have occurred. I don't know if you guys did some freshly pressed, but it was supposed to have started, I believe, next week or thereabouts.
Yes,
yeah,
the
it was
last
supposed
week
to.
in March.
Yeah, the last week in March, right? And it's been moved to May. They've gotten additional money. I think the Federal Executive Council approved 2.8 billion naira. right, for the MPC to buy, what it termed as essential software in order to do the head count. The population commissioner for Ogun State that you were just referring to, actually said, and this is gratifying, although the jury is out on whether this will be executed. Proxy counting will not be allowed. So if you're not available in person, then in theory you won't be counted. What I would like to see, right, is a lot more public education around how the census itself will be carried out on election day. And I think we need to take a leaf off of INEC's experiences. Now, INEC did not invest as much time and resources into public education in terms of how things like BVAS was going to work, and actually begin to prime and prompt and educate Nigerians on what to do if a census officer, right, comes to your house, what sort of software, what sort of gadgetry, if any, will be involved, right, would be part of the process, and how are they supposed to engage with that, as well as, under sundry things that, that carrying out a proper census exercise, right, would be involved. I should say, though, that every census in Nigeria has been politically and ethnically, motivated, right from, I think the only proper census that has been done where data, right, where population and demographic data was really the priority and not, political and ethnic considerations, actually occurred before Nigeria became an independent country. So that tells you everything about sort of what our history with, with census and data gathering has been. Fingers crossed that this will be different, although my hopes are not, very high for that right now.
Mm. All right, let's take a few few messages. This one is from Daisy. Daisy says, I want to say that it's 85% human error, and this is in regards to the accidents involving the innocent school children. She says, some of these drivers are reckless. I know how many times I've called a particular school complaining about a particular driver. Next day, I saw him on that same route, and the children never wear seatbelts. Nedu says, I feel so sad about the bus accidents with little children because I've always been an advocate of having more school buses in Lagos due to how free the roads are when schools are on break. This is a major setback to encouraging parents to using school buses. And I can't see a name. Okay, Buzo says, there is no set standard for private schools in Nigeria. VIO and FRSC should impound these school buses. And I see your messages. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sending your thoughts across. And a special thanks as well to our analysts. It's Joseph and Ikemesit this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zibby.
Thank you very much, Zibby.
Ikemesit. Yeah. Thanks to Marian too, those behind the scene who are making this possible. Kudos
Absolutely.
To
Yay.
Great work you did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a brilliant day ahead. Thank you for staying with us. There's a lot more to come.